Hi guys, good morning. This is Dr. Kannan from Chengalpet, India. I should say sorry to my listeners because the previous recording was not all that good. I was a bit careless. Sorry about that. So that I was having a white shirt with a white background, and so probably you must have felt a ghost was talking to you. And secondly, there was a lot of traffic on the road after the curfew being liberated here, and so it was pretty noisy. I feel sorry for that. Even I was annoyed. But I think you should learn to listen to the bird songs too. So the birds were also singing out there in the mango tree that we have at the backyard. Okay, sorry about it. I'm too casual, I know that, but this is a casual talk. This is not really an official talk. But I thought that this way we could explore certain things in a freelance way, in a free way. Okay, so what we are going to discuss today on the connection between the ancient connection between Tamilakam, or that part of southern India, and the Far East, including Japan and Korea. India has been colonized by the Europeans, like starting with the Portuguese and then the Dutch and then the French and then later the British. And of course, the visit of Europeans have opened up a lot of things in India. We have been a kind of liberated, the modern science entered into India, and a lot of old habits have gone. But unfortunately, after that, India has become totally westernized. All our worldview is only through English. This is a very critical thing. We see everything from the English window. For example, the famous car Hyundai, they say Hyundai. It's not Hyundai. Actually, if you look into the original pronunciation of the Korean, it is Hyundai. Okay, this is very typical for the Far East languages. They're very soft. Okay, they don't say Honda. It's Honda. Okay, so there is a soft sound there. Toyota, not Toyota, but Toyota. Okay, so the point here is that we have been totally anglicized, that all our outlook is essentially through English. Okay, even the words and other things we normally look at from a Western point of view. To such an extent, you would be very surprised. One of my friend from Japan, he went to India. I mean, I encouraged him to go to southern India. He wanted to learn yoga, so he was in Kerala. And on his return, he said, like, Indians are extremely Western, so we are the real Asians, which is true. Actually, the old Indian values are still retained and respected in Japan and in Korea more than in India. It's a pity because we have been totally westernized and our outlook is always towards the west. Okay, but the ancient Tamilakam was not like that. Till the later Cholas, we have been maintaining a healthy relationship with the east. Actually, you know this famous story of Nandivarma from Cambodia coming all the way to Tamil Nadu and ruling this country. And then Cholas were going all the time to the east. And our strongest evidence would be the Manimegalai of the 4th century CE. And that epic talks about Java and the Indonesian islands. So actually, our eastern border is precisely the Javian islands. So we should not say that our borders stop at the east coast. Actually, like even the Singapore and the Malaysia, we call it as Akkare Chimay. That means the other side of the river or the other side of the sea. So that frequent people might have been traveling, and that's why they call it as Akkare Chimay. On the other side, Akkare means on the other side of the river or water ways. Okay. In a similar way, the East Asians also didn't pay much attention to India and the West. Probably it's because the connections have been there for ages, and so they also wanted to look into the West, especially the European powers, and they want to be in touch with them and to modernize their countries. Especially in Japan, the Meiji era period is where the Europeans came there, and the entire medical system of Japan is after Germany. Okay. But interestingly, among these two countries, the Japan and Korea, the Japanese are westernized, yeah, to a lot extent, and their etiquette and their behavior, and the whole nation is very, very clean and Western, like Germany. And so their medical system is very German. They've taken up the German medical system completely. Um, and in spite of that, in a very interesting way, it is only the Japanese, who at least studied Indology in a proper sense. Like, for example, if you Google the Japanese Indologist, you have a whole list of people, 10 names I could say that now, starting with Munoru Hara and Noboru Karoshima. Probably many of the Indian scholars refer to Noboru Karoshima because he worked with the Indian scholars together, and also with my friend in Germany, Hermann Kulke. They have published. Hermann Kulke is, by the way, he's a well-known Indologist in Germany. And then we have Kasahara, Kenju, and Saichiro Misumi, Hiroshi Motoyama, Hajime Nakamura, and then D.T. Suzuki, and Takanobu Takahashi, and Takatsu Yunjiro, and Munio Tokunaga. So these are the people that the Google gives you as Indologists, the Japanese Indologists. But you do the same thing. You just Google the Korean Indologist. You'll be very surprised to have only one person, a lady from Iowa University, and her name is Kim Yang-shik. Okay. Kim Yang-shik is not a real Indologist. So she is a poet, very much inspired by Rabindranath Tagore, and she started translating the Rabindranath Tagore compositions, and in 1981 she started Rabindranath Tagore Association in Seoul in 1981. Interestingly, Tagore has a strong connection with Korea. I was also very surprised to realize that when I was in Korea, people respected Tagore. The simple reason is, though in Tamil we have Bharati, who is much more talented than Tagore, but he was not known to the world. He didn't come from a very rich family, whereas Tagore's family is very rich. And so Tagore traveled all around the world. And when he was in Korea, he somehow realized the ancient connection between Korea and India, and probably the transference, what Kim Byung-mo talks about. And then he wrote a beautiful poem saying that Korea will emerge as the light of Asia, the Jyoti. So that was amazing. And that fantastic blessing by Tagore turned true. And so many Koreans feel extremely friendly with India because Tagore blessed them so much. And so the point here is that the Korean scholars should pay a little more attention towards India. Like if you think of the travelogues in the world, we know the Marco Polo travelogue very much. Many people read about it, okay? In India, often they refer to a Chinese monk, Yongzhuang. And the Yongzhuang has been referred by many scholars. But there is equally an important Korean scholar who has also written a travelogue. And he studied Sanskrit in China, and then he went to India, and his travelogue is the five states that he visited, or the five kingdoms that he visited in India and the Asia Minor part of the Asia, using the Silk Road, the land Silk Road. Okay, and he is variously referred as Hei Chu, and he visited India in 727 CE. And this is another travelogue that both Koreans and Indians should look into to understand the ancient political systems, how the Indian kings were there, and essentially the Buddhist teachings and other things. So, in short, in this episode, I would like to say that unless you do some research, you won't see the facts coming out. Okay, so don't ignore any new propositions, and then don't ridicule people who would say the impossible. Okay, they this call it as positive deviance, and these people are very important. They are trying to tell you something important, some ancient connections. In this connection, when I first said about the Korea and India, nobody believed that. I lived in Korea for 8 years, and the gut feeling was strong that we have been connected. But of course, many Indians don't travel to the east again. Hardly Tamils travel to Korea or to Japan, and so they don't even know about, for example, Bodhidharma. Okay, who brought Zen to the world, the most important Buddhist teaching. And we didn't do any research on that. It is only my friend, the professor of Tokyo, okay, Professor Kambe, and he's the one who insisting that there should be a monument for Bodhidharma in Kanjivaram. Last time I visited with him to Kanjivaram together, we were actually exploring the Vaikunta Perumal Pudaipu Chirpam, the statues in the temple, which tells all about the Pallava dynasty and the history of that period of time, which is extremely important because even in Malacca and as well as in Kedah, in Malaysia, the Pujang Valley has inscriptions of the Pallavas, okay, Pallava Granda. And so the other thing is the Tamil scholars these days, it's not like in ancient times where most Tamil scholars knew about Sanskrit and other languages, probably including Chinese in those days. But these days they only know Tamil, and but they ridicule the other languages, and especially the Sanskrit. I don't know for what reason. And without an understanding and knowledge of Sanskrit, it's almost impossible to study the southeast and the far east. It is the Tamils, like Cholas and others, Pallavas, took Sanskrit from India to these lands, and so there is no meaning in hating that. So we should not apply the current political scenario of India to the ancient history. Okay, so I think with that note, let me stop today's podcast. I can say this, and thank you for listening. Bye bye.